welcome to the Snark side. We hope you have an amazing fucking day.
A truly spectacular one.
And babes, don't forget to rate and subscribe, because this podcast, it's for all the messy babes.
Oh, absolutely.
The gays, the gals, the guys, the theys, everyone, babes. We are so glad you're here hanging out with us.
Because we need to take a moment right up front to talk about hot tubs.
Oh my God. I am already sweating just thinking about this.
Because my mom just got one. And of course, being the dutiful children we are, we had to go over and help set it up. And babes, it was chaotic.
Like genuinely the most stressful afternoon of my entire life, and I have worked a double shift on a Sunday brunch.
It was a disaster from the jump. So the delivery company shows up, right? And they take one look at my mom's driveway, and they just completely refuse to bring it up to the patio. They literally cited company policy.
Like, babes, what do you mean you won't bring it up? That is literally your one job.
Right. So now we're arguing back and forth in the driveway. The delivery guy is standing there with his clipboard, crossing his arms, talking about liability and gradients. And I'm just looking at this 1,000-pound fiberglass cauldron sitting in the street.
I was ready to throw hands. I was like, am I supposed to deadlift this thing up a hill? Because I skipped arm day. I skipped all the days, actually.
Literally. So we finally, by some miracle of leverage and sheer rage, get it set up on the patio. We fill it up, turn on the jets. Everything looks gorgeous. We think, okay, we conquered the beast. We won.
We were so smug about it, too. Like, look at us, DIY kings.
Exactly. Only to come back a week later. And babes, the water is green.
No, I was horrified. I was emotionally unwell when I saw that water.
I am talking like an opaque biological swamp. It looked like Shrek's bathtub.
I literally recoiled. I thought something was going to crawl out of it and ask me for a cigarette. It was so foul. How does that even happen in 7 days?
Because she completely ignored the water chemistry. A hot tub is literally a 100-degree incubator. If you don't balance the pH and the chlorine, you're just breeding algae. So because now we're basically unpaid hot tub maintenance workers skimming this literal swamp.
Like, babes, we need a podcast sponsor immediately. I am dead serious.
Seriously.
Because we cannot be driving out to the suburbs weekly to fix this hazardous waste situation. We are too busy. We have reality TV to watch.
And here's the thing that makes me spiral the most. She can afford to hire someone.
Oh, 100%.
Babe, she lives in a full McMansion. But is she going to hire a pool boy? No, because she's cheap.
It makes no sense. You buy a luxury water feature and then you refuse to spend $50 a month to keep it from turning into a biohazard. I felt so validated in my rage when you were yelling about the pH levels.
It's the ultimate boomer logic. But you know, this whole swamp disaster really got us thinking.
Oh, it sent me down a deep delusional rabbit hole.
If we had money, like if we magically manifested a sugar daddy tomorrow, what is one thing we would outsource immediately?
Oh, cooking. Without a single second of hesitation. Cooking.
See, I thought you were going to say cleaning.
No, because cleaning, I can kind of put a podcast on, zone out, and stick over the counter. Cooking is relentless. It happens 3 times a day, every single day, until you die.
Yeah.
I want a full-time, live-in personal chef.
Wow. You want the full Downton Abbey kitchen staff?
Yes. I want them to just silently hand-feed me organic grapes while I lay on a velvet chaise lounge. I want perfectly plated Michelin star meals handed to me so I never have to even perceive a stove again. I don't want to know what a spatula looks like.
The delusion is so beautiful. I mean, I would love a chef, but for me, I have to be practical. I would outsource my life admin.
Wait, like paying bills, that takes like 5 minutes online.
No. The bureaucracy, dealing with the DMV, waiting on hold with the Wi-Fi company because the router is blinking red, scheduling dentist appointments, returning Zara packages.
Oh God, the Zara returns. That actually is a nightmare.
Right. I want an assistant who just takes my cardboard boxes, deals with the barcodes, and makes the problem go away. But honestly, if I had sugar daddy money, I wouldn't stop there. I would outsource walking. I just want to be carried on a palanquin.
See, you tried to be practical, and you immediately spiraled into wanting to be treated like an ancient emperor.
It's a slippery slope.
It really is. But babes, speaking of spiraling and cooking disasters, we are already activated. Let's get into the chaos.
We have to, because this week's Top Chef Restaurant Wars was an absolute logistical nightmare.
I was screaming at my television. The entire episode was just pure stress from the very first minute. Like, the setup alone was a bombshell.
It really fundamentally altered the math of the entire game. The episode opens, and we find out Jennifer has to leave for a medical emergency.
Which was so sad. I was genuinely tearing up.
It was awful. She goes to the hospital, but then her partner, Justin, makes the decision to voluntarily eliminate himself so he can go be with her.
Okay, we need to pause here because I had such an intense emotional reaction to this. I was swooning.
Mm.
Is that not the most romantic thing you have ever seen on reality television?
It's definitely up there.
Like, to look at your ultimate career ambition, the title of Top Chef, and just drop it instantly for the person you love. It's giving Nicholas sparks. It's giving true love.
I mean, on a human level, yes, I respect the loyalty, but analytically, from a competitive standpoint, it's insane. You do not give up Top Chef.
You are so heartless.
I'm not heartless, I'm realistic.
Yeah.
You are there to win a massive cash prize and change your culinary career forever. Jennifer was already at the hospital with doctors. Justin standing next to her bed doesn't cure her faster. Win the money for both of you.
Wow. Remind me to never date you. If I'm in the hospital, I want you abandoning everything to hold my hand.
I'll send you a very nice edible arrangement paid for with my prize money. But look at the procedural snark of what this caused. Because Justin left, there's a hole in the roster right before Restaurant Wars, which requires 2 teams of 4.
Yes. The producers were totally scrambling. You could tell they were just like, what do we do?
So they have to bring back the last eliminated chef to make the math work. And who gets to waltz right back through those doors?
Seeger Bayer. With his little diamond nose stud just twinkling in the kitchen lights.
Just strutting back in. And this is where I get annoyed on behalf of the other chefs. Seeger essentially skipped the grueling psychological exhaustion of the last elimination round, and he gets dropped right into the executive chef role for Restaurant Wars.
Wait, I completely disagree with you on this.
You don't think it's an unfair advantage?
Not at all. I think it's a massive disadvantage.
Yeah.
Think about the momentum. When you are in the Top Chef kitchen, your adrenaline is pumping, your palate is sharp, you're in the zone.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Right. But when you get eliminated, you crash. You pack your knives, you cry in your hotel room, you start processing the grief of losing. To be pulled out of that depression nap and shoved directly into the most stressful challenge of the season.
Yeah, that is some serious cognitive whiplash.
Exactly. It's a recipe for a panic attack.
Yeah.
And honestly, we saw that play out when they started forming the teams and conceptualizing the restaurants. Let's do a vibe check on these two concepts.
Oh, the division of labor was fascinating. Let's start with Carolina Queen. You've got Laurence, Anthony, Duyen, and Sherry.
And can we talk about how Sherry initially pitched a global theme? Babes, when I heard the word global, I almost threw my remote at the wall.
It is the ultimate Restaurant Wars trap.
It's the biggest red flag. Anytime a chef says global, it just means we're too scared to fight over a unified concept, so everyone just cook whatever you want. It's culinary cowardice.
That is exactly what it is. It completely lacks a point of view. You can't serve a delicate Japanese crudo next to a heavy Moroccan lamb shank and call it a cohesive dining experience. It confuses the palate.
Thank God Anthony stepped in and was like, absolutely not. They pivoted to that soft, feminine Carolina comfort food vibe, which felt so elegant and smart.
It was a very smart, localized concept. Now, contrast that with Tierra Reina. Oscar, Brandon, Jonathan, and Seeger. They went for a Latin-Southern fusion.
But the execution of the aesthetic, it was so jarring. Carolina Queen felt like a breezy Sunday brunch, and Tierra Reina felt like a dark, moody, brothel chic lounge.
It really did. The lighting was harsh. The walls were dark.
It was giving 90210 Mean Girls aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like, why are we eating comfort food in a VIP room of a nightclub? It was aggressively masculine energy.
Well, the sensory dissonance is real. When the environment tells your brain you're in an exclusive, intense club, but the food is rustic barbacoa, your brain rejects the experience.
Exactly. And the team dynamics were just as messy as the decor. We have to call out the identical twins, Brandon and Jonathan.
Oh, the twins. They immediately volunteered to be the line cooks, which frankly is a classic survival strategy.
Well, you call it strategy, I call it hiding. They were terrified.
Look at the show's history. The people who go home on Restaurant Wars are almost exclusively the executive chef or the front of house. If you want to survive, you put your head down on the line and just chop onions. You let the leadership take the bullets.
Babes, that is such weak energy. If you are going to win Top Chef, you need to lead. But the funniest part is they tried to hide, and they still ended up bringing all this intense sibling energy to the kitchen.
They were bickering over garnishes.
Literally sniping at each other like they were fighting over the Xbox in their childhood bedroom. I was like, go to family therapy. Do not bring this to a professional kitchen.
It really disrupted the flow, but you know what disrupted the flow even more? The producers. Because we have to talk about the twist.
I am still angry about this. I am physically tense.
They decided it wasn't enough to make them serve 100 fine dining guests in 36 hours. They added a takeout element.
Babes, I have PTSD from my days in the service industry. When you are deep in the weeds, trying to plate a delicate dish, and you hear that cheap plastic ringtone from the takeout tablet, it is psychic damage.
It completely shatters the illusion of fine dining.
It really does. And the phone just would not stop ringing. Why would they introduce DoorDash chaos to a Michelin-level challenge?
Because it's the reality of the post-2020 restaurant landscape, sadly. But what drove me insane was the absolute disregard for the physics of the food. They are putting high-end cuisine into black plastic clamshell containers.
Yes. Jonathan's plantain chips.
Babes, nobody wants a soggy plantain chip sitting in a black plastic clamshell container in 100-degree Charlotte heat. It is a thermodynamics disaster.
It turns into a terrarium.
Exactly. The steam from the hot food hits the plastic lid, condenses, and rains right back down onto the crispy chip. Within 5 minutes, that plantain is the texture of a wet leather belt.
It's so disrespectful to the food. And the logistics of managing those takeout orders completely destroyed Tierra Reina's service.
Their expediting was a joke. Oscar was technically running front of house, but they decided to use handwritten tickets for the kitchen.
Which is absolute madness. Have you ever seen a chef try to write in a hurry? It looks like a doctor's prescription pad during an earthquake.
It really does. So Seeger's trying to cook, but he has to stop every 2 seconds to squint at these scribbled hieroglyphics. And that delay compounds. If it takes you 10 extra seconds to read a ticket and you have 100 guests, your kitchen grinds to a halt.
And then the servers are taking the food to the wrong tables, which means the dish is dead and you have to refire it.
A total cascading failure. The judges, Tom, Gail, Kristen, Michael Mina, and Claire from the James Beard Foundation, they sat there for 40 minutes with empty plates.
40 minutes. I would have started eating the napkins. And where was Oscar during this entire meltdown?
This is the part that killed me. He is out in the dining room, charming the guests, making literal dad jokes.
He was completely oblivious. The kitchen is burning down behind him, and he's out there doing stand-up comedy. Kristen Kish literally had to wave him over like a toddler to ask where their food was.
He was acting like a host at a casual dinner party, not a front-of-house manager. If a table waits 40 minutes, you don't crack a joke. You grovel. You bring them free wine. You manage the crisis.
Exactly. Now, if we look at Carolina Queen, it was the exact opposite. Duyen gave an absolute masterclass in front of house slayage.
She really did. She was operating on a completely different frequency.
Babes, she was striding through that dining room in knee-high boots with an aura of pure domination. She had her clipboards, her prep lists. It was the most intense Virgo energy I have ever witnessed.
She checked every single box. But my favorite moment, and this is controversial, is when the kitchen was in the weeds. Anthony is struggling with the rice, the pans are scorching, and the takeout phone starts ringing.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Duyen walks into the kitchen, ignores the culinary disasters happening on the stoves, picks up the phone, and just gives this bright, breezy, hello.
I lost my mind. I was screaming.
Some people would say a real leader puts down the clipboard and helps cook the rice.
No, absolutely not. Her job is to protect the dining room from the reality of the kitchen. Yeah. If she drops her clipboard to stir a pot, the entire front of house collapses. By answering that phone so cheerfully, she handled the external stressor so her cooks could focus. That is mother behavior.
I will concede that point. She maintained the illusion of control, which led to my absolute favorite background moment of the entire season, the handbag lady.
Oh my God, yes. Please set the scene for the babes who missed it.
Okay, so there is this older Southern lady sitting at a table in Carolina Queen. They finish their meal, and there is a piece of Laurence's leftover baklava on the table. In a fine dining setting, you do not take doggy bags.
Never. It's so gauche.
But this woman looks around, carefully wraps the Michelin star pastry in a napkin, and just shoves it deep into her designer handbag.
I felt so represented in that moment.
Yeah.
That is peak frugal reality. I don't care how rich you are, if there's laminated pastry left on the table, it is going in the purse right next to my lip gloss.
It is the ultimate compliment to the chef, honestly, bypassing societal norms to secure the caloric value of the dessert.
Speaking of the food, we really need to get into the plates, because there was some serious two-faced behavior at the judges' table.
Oh, the judging for Laurence's pork belly was brutal.
Brutal. So Laurence brings out this pork belly, and when he is standing right there at the table, Tom and Kristen are smiling at him. They tell him, oh, it's a classic nice execution.
But the millisecond he turns his back and walks away, the knives come out.
They completely ripped him apart. They started whispering to each other, saying it was boring, it was safe, and Tom literally said the skin of the pork belly was going to break someone's dentures.
Which is a savage critique. But from a culinary science perspective, why does pork skin turn into a denture-breaking weapon?
I need you to explain this to me, because I have had pork belly that melts like butter and shatters like glass, and then I've had pork belly that feels like chewing on a radial tire.
It is entirely about moisture management. Pork skin is packed with collagen. To get it to puff and crisp like a chicharron, you have to completely dry out the surface of the skin before you cook it. Usually you leave it uncovered in a walk-in fridge for at least 24 hours.
And they only had 36 hours for the entire challenge.
Exactly. Laurence didn't have the time to dehydrate it properly, so when that skin, which still held moisture, hit the heat, it didn't fry and expand. It just steamed and seized up into a tough, leathery armor.
See, you cannot rush chemistry.
Yeah.
It always bites you in the ass. But someone who absolutely nailed the chemistry was Sherry.
Oh, Sherry completely carried Carolina Queen with her coconut milk she crab cake.
I was so impressed that she refused to use mayonnaise as a binder.
It was a huge risk. Mayonnaise is the standard because the emulsified egg yolks and oil provide structural integrity. When you swap that for coconut milk, you are changing the entire lipid profile of the dish.
But it worked so beautifully. It was rich without being heavy. And then you compare that success to the absolute disaster that was the dessert course for Tierra Reina.
The desserts were offensive.
They were criminal. Let's start with Seeger. He makes a crema catalana, a custard.
Which he had successfully made earlier in the season, but this time, under the pressure, it completely broke. It was grainy and somehow savory.
How do you accidentally scramble a custard at this level of competition?
Heat control. A custard is an emulsion of eggs and dairy. If you let the temperature creep past like 165 degrees, the egg proteins tighten up too much, they squeeze out the liquid and clump together. He essentially served sweet, microscopic scrambled eggs.
I am gagging. But somehow, Brandon's dessert was even worse.
Brandon, who remember only cooked one single dish the entire service.
He had one job. And he makes a rice pudding with a Cheerwine jelly.
Yeah.
And babes, the rice was raw.
It was crunchy.
I am physically recoiling. Crunchy rice hiding inside a creamy pudding is a texture nightmare. Why was it raw?
Because he cooked the raw rice directly in the dairy. Milk and cream have fat. That fat coats the exterior of the hard starch granules in the rice, creating a lipid barrier. It literally repels the water and stops the rice from hydrating and softening.
Oh my God. So it was never going to cook in time.
Not without scorching the dairy on the bottom of the pot. It was a fundamental failure of technique.
And that failure had massive consequences. Because at the judges' table, Carolina Queen rightfully wins. And Duyen wins the overall challenge for her front-of-house service.
But we have to talk about her prize.
Please. I need a Snark on this.
For surviving 36 hours of absolute physical and psychological torment, Bravo rewards Duyen with a trip to Universal Orlando.
I was screaming. The absolute disrespect. These are Michelin star level chefs. Their palates are refined to the highest degree. And you are sending them to Central Florida in the humidity to eat a giant turkey leg next to a minion.
It is the least glamorous prize I have ever seen. Send them to Tuscany. Send them to Paris. Give them cash.
It's giving high school graduation trip, not culinary elite. But on the losing side, Tierra Reina gets ripped apart. And Brandon is eliminated entirely because of that crunchy rice.
Tom explicitly called him out for hiding on the line cook station and still failing his only task.
It was brutal. But as we know, elimination is not the end. Brandon immediately walks into Last Chance Kitchen.
Where Roa is waiting for him. And Roa has been a Terminator in Last Chance Kitchen.
She is terrifying in the best way. And Tom gives them the most sadistic challenge prompt.
A 45-minute, 3-course restaurant wars. And every course has to be a single perfect bite.
45 minutes for 3 courses. That is 15 minutes a dish. I can barely make a piece of toast in 15 minutes.
It requires an insane level of strategic time management. You have to balance your active and inactive cooking times perfectly.
And Roa did exactly that. She went with a California Mediterranean menu, a roasted carrot salad, a seared scallop with romesco, and a roasted duck with grape jess.
The roasted duck is what secured the win. Rendering duck skin perfectly crispy in under 40 minutes is incredibly difficult because of the thick layer of subcutaneous fat. You have to start it in a cold pan and slowly coax the fat out.
And she sang to it. She literally said she sang lullabies to the duck skin to make it crispy. That is mother energy.
While Roa is serenading her poultry, let's look at what Brandon decided to do with his 45 minutes.
He decides to make fresh pasta.
An unforced error of catastrophic proportions.
Babes, I yelled at the screen. You never make fresh pasta on a clock like that.
You can't. When you mix flour and water, you develop the gluten network, which is very elastic. If you don't let the dough rest for at least 30 minutes, those gluten strands stay tense. When you try to roll it out, it fights back.
It just snaps back like a rubber band.
Mm-hmm.
So his quail egg raviolo was dense and chewy, and then his second course was a hush puppy, which was completely raw batter on the inside.
Because his frying oil was too hot. The outside browned instantly, giving him the visual cue that it was done. But the thermal energy never reached the center to cook the starches. It was the exact same problem as his rice pudding, just deep fried.
He just fundamentally cannot manage heat transfer. So Roa empties the clip, destroys them, and sends him packing for good, which honestly was deserved.
Completely deserved.
And that brings us to our first segment of the breakdown today. We call this Chef's Kiss or Kitchen Nightmare. Let's get loud. Let's get dramatic. What is your highlight and your absolute low light of the episode?
I will happily start. My chef's kiss goes to Duyen. Full stop. The sheer Virgo energy of her prep list, the way she anchored that dining room while her team was having a meltdown behind the swinging doors, she deserves that universal trip just for dealing with Tom's grumpy attitude during the 40-minute wait.
She really did. She was flawless.
Now, my kitchen nightmare. I have to dramatically award this to Brandon's rice pudding. Babes, if you only have one single job in a 100-person service and you serve me crunchy raw rice and a dessert, straight to jail. Do not pass go.
It is a crime against texture. I completely agree. But I have an honorable mention for Kitchen Nightmare. I'm giving it to the producers for that takeout phone. Hearing that thing ring constantly was triggering my fight or flight response.
It was sonic warfare.
It really was. Okay, moving on to segment 2. The plating personality test. This is where we judge these chefs not on their food, but as people, based entirely on the visual vibes of their plates.
I love this segment. Let me start by analyzing Laurence's uninspired pork belly and dry pecan baklava.
Oh, please do.
Visually, it was so rigid and brown, it's giving, I bought you a gift card for your birthday because I panicked at CVS on the way to your party. Like, it's reliable, it gets the job done, but it displays absolute zero emotional intelligence.
That is painfully accurate. No thought, just vibes. Bad vibes.
Exactly.
Well, I spent a lot of time looking at Seeger's sweet potato tostada. Babes, it was so dry, it was messy, there was no sauce binding it together.
Very scattered.
It's giving chaotic masculine energy. It's giving, I just texted you that I'm 5 minutes away, but I haven't even gotten in the shower yet vibes.
Oh my God, yes.
Just completely disorganized, lying to my face.
Yeah.
But then you look at Oscar's beautiful barbacoa. He wrapped it so carefully in those collard greens.
It was swaddled.
Yes. It's giving provider energy. It's giving, I booked the dinner reservation. I prepaid the valet, and I already ordered your favorite cocktail.
A plate of food that actually takes care of you. I love that.
Which brings us perfectly to segment 3. Steal this dish. If you could run up to the judges' table, snatch one plate out of their hands, and run out the door, which one is it, and why do you deserve it more than them?
Oh, I am claiming Sherry's coconut milk she crab cake. I deserve this dish infinitely more than Tom Colicchio because I wouldn't have been grumpy about the wait time. I would have understood the struggle. And I would appreciate the lack of mayo because I am a person of refined taste who understands lipid substitution.
You just want to feel superior about the chemistry.
Maybe a little bit. What about you?
Babes, I am sprinting into Last Chance Kitchen, and I am stealing Roa's one-bite roasted duck with the grape just.
The lullaby duck.
Yes. She's saying lullabies to that duck skin to make it crispy. I need that level of maternal care in my life right now. I deserve it because my hot tub water is green, my life is in shambles, and I desperately need a win. I need to be serenaded by poultry.
You really do need the emotional support, duck.
I do. Okay, final segment. Segment 4. Fire them immediately. Who are we eliminating from this episode based purely on vibes? No cooking skills considered, just pure, unadulterated snark.
Oh, I am firing the twin dynamic immediately.
Goodbye to the brothers.
I'm sorry, but Brandon and Jonathan hiding together on the line cook station and then getting snippy with each other over parsley garnishes, it's too much sibling energy for a professional kitchen. Fire them both. Go to family therapy on your own time.
It was so deeply unprofessional. Well, I am firing a concept. Babes, I am firing the global restaurant theme that Sherry tried to push.
Yes! Into the sun.
When she suggested a global theme, I almost screamed, "It's the biggest trap in the history of the show." Fire anyone who ever suggests global on Restaurant Wars again. Have a point of view or pack your knives.
I completely agree. And I think we both agree that we need to fire whoever designed those black plastic to-go containers.
Oh, absolutely.
Fire the packaging engineers. Ruining perfectly good plantain chips with evaporative steam. It's a crime.
Babes, my blood pressure is so high right now, but this was exactly the venting session I needed. Thank you so much to the Snark Squad for hanging out with us today and unpacking all of this madness.
Seriously, we love doing this with you guys. Make sure you share the podcast with a messy friend. And leave us a rating and a review. We genuinely read all of them.
We really do. Like, babes, look at the journey we took today. We started this episode talking about a green, swampy hot tub disaster, and we ended up critiquing Michelin star professional chefs' crunchy rice pudding.
The growth is undeniable.
Range. We love to see it.
Stay hungry.
Stay chaotic. And we will see you on the Snark side.